Welcome to the True Shots, where we deliver short, unfiltered moments of truth and inspiration designed to realign your path and awaken what's already inside you. I'm your host, Eric Foster, and today's episode is titled A Powerful Truth: When You Walk in Your Truth, Your Purpose, and Your Passion Align. This podcast is powered by Destinies by Choice Support Services, and today's conversation invites you to reflect, reset, and move with intention as we step into a new season. My guest today is more than a doctor. He's an educator, a pastor, a family man, and a voice of wisdom grounded in both faith and lived experience. His insight challenges us to live intentionally and become who we are created to be. So let's lean in, listen with open hearts. Let's allow this conversation to spark something new. And as we walk forward, aligned, grounded, and walking in our truth, I just want to say, Dr. Eric Anderson, thank you. I'm crying, about ready to cry already. It's just an honor and a privilege to be in your presence. And to be honest, when I started going to your church, I didn't believe in pastors. I had been let down so many times. And I had been to church in like almost 15 years. But when I started going, I didn't want to stop. I used to figure out ways to not go to church. But then when I went the first time, it was just something about the atmosphere, about you and your family. I just want to say, when I look at you and your family, I see Black excellence. Not the kind that we normally see on television or the internet or whatever, but are people to be proud of. And you give so many people something to strive for, because never in my wildest dream that I would think that I'll be sitting here and having a conversation with you, because I didn't think that before that I would have anything in common with a man such as yourself, because of what side of the fence you've been on and what side I came from, you know. And I know that you've had your trials and your tribulations also.
Yes, sir.
But I know it took discipline and determination to become not only the doctor, pastor, the father, the husband, you know, the brother, the friend, the uncle, and just be that inspiration when so many people need it, you know. And I say all that to say that you make me proud to be a Black man, because when I look at you and your relationship with your kids, I wish that I could have experienced something like that, you know, because it's a beautiful thing. Man, I'm just so, I don't want to say, it's like I'm just so caught right now, like caught up in between how I feel and what I want to talk about. Because personally, you talked about when I first started, like what you had went through and overcame, and at the time I was going through some stuff and I was overcoming, but I didn't hear you complain. So my question to you, what makes a person or a man like yourself continue to go when the world has closed a lot of doors?
Wow. So apparently you want me to start crying already.
I'm fighting it.
And I appreciate what you've shared, because I like a story that Langston Hughes kind of put out that said, life for me ain't been a crystal stair. And basically that's kind of been my story, that, you know, I haven't had this easy route, but being the son of a woman who was a pastor, really shaped me into the man that I am today. So I was raised by this strong woman who really taught me about the words you mentioned, discipline. She toughened me up in ways that I know is, without a shadow of a doubt, why I'm here today. So I like what you said, but you know, I think that the easy part is that I want to be someone people can relate to, because I'm a human. I put on pants just like you. So we do have a lot in common. So the fact that I kind of took this journey doesn't make me anything other than just a man. And so in ministry, as I embarked upon it, you know, I really thought about, I was turned off as well from growing up in an apostolic or Pentecostal background. I was turned off with church. And so a lot of times I didn't see that people really are just people and go through their same battles. So with the things that I've gone through, I think each trial and tribulation that I overcome, it just makes me a little bit stronger. So when you entered into my life, I was going through a really difficult, dark time, probably the darkest time that I could possibly imagine. But what was interesting, I had to stand up in front of a group of people every single Sunday. So I couldn't get into a moment where I was just crying and depressed and couldn't deal with it. I had to kind of stand up and tell people that even though I couldn't see how I was going to get through it, I had to rely totally on God. So with that process that I went through, and it was a pretty intense process, it has definitely equipped me in a way that I know when whatever comes, I can fall back on. Each time I go through something, I get a little bit stronger. That's the song that we all like to sing. I get a little bit wiser even just from having trials and tribulations that I overcome. So I grew up too being told, don't nobody want to hear you complain. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fact for all of us, is that, we have to constantly shift our brains to think about what's good versus what's bad. And some things I have people to do that I talk to is make the list. When you really get into that moment where you're ready to complain, start thinking about all the things that you've been blessed with. Start thinking about those moments that you realized that it was nobody but God that got you through it. And I think sometimes it does shift kind of the way you look at things. The world we live in, it is easy to find what's wrong with it. Yes, it is easy to get the list of here's all my complaints, here's all the things that's going wrong. But I've chosen to live my life, and I really practice it every single day. Yes. Every day I think, what can I dwell on that's positive? So when I have a bill that's due, when I have something that breaks in my house, that's a part of the process. But I got to shift my thoughts to make sure that I realize that I'm still blessed. I'm still able to walk. I still have activity of my limbs. And I think having a spirit of gratitude can sometimes really decrease the level of complaining that we have.
Wow. Back to the thing in common. My mom, she was as an ordained minister.
See, we got a lot in common.
And my sister's a doctor.
Look at her.
So, and at first I didn't think about how important it was to have them two letters in front of your name. And when somebody get those letters, I think it's very important to address them as such, because it takes a lot to get there. I never thought about life to the point where, until recently, that tomorrow matters. I always thought like whatever happens, and I deal with it then. But going to church and listening to the word and getting closer to the word, Bible study is making me have a second thought about what I thought life was versus what I believe life it truly is. And it comes to the point where I try to, how do you separate being an educator and being a pastor?
Wow. So I think the answer to that question for me is I don't separate them. Now, as an educator, my task is to educate people. And that is my training, that I went to college for many years to learn the art of teaching and learn the skill of educating. But what's beautiful about God, he will align your life where you don't even realize what he's doing. But that educator is what helps me be that pastor or that minister. Because I have gained those skills on how to get a message across and hopefully teach somebody something. So from 9 to 5, I am dealing with beautiful young people every single day. And I don't tote a Bible, but my life should speak volumes about who I believe in and what I believe in without having to ever mention anything that would be against kind of what we're supposed to do in the school system. But as a pastor, my goal, and I really do thoroughly enjoy teaching and seeing when the light go on, or when you delivering a sermon and you hear the congregation go, and they kind of get that point that you've been trying to make. So I realized that it is truly a gift that God has given me. And I probably wouldn't have said that years ago. But at this point in my life, I realized that, I hold it really close to my heart, and it is a passion of mine. So when I'm writing a sermon, I'm in the zone. But also when I'm educating little young people, you can see me at a really high place as well. So I'm really thankful that God has aligned my life where everything connects, kind of like Legos. So when I was in my 20s pursuing a teaching career, I never thought that it would lead to where I am today. So to me, that tapestry that God creates for our lives is extremely important, that we have to realize everything is working together, that he's aligning things that you don't even know what you're experiencing today is going to actually prepare you for tomorrow. So I'm thankful that, I have these gifts that God has given me, and I'm blessed to be able to still use them. So nothing gets me, again, more excited than I enjoy going to work every day, but I also like that shift where I can preach God's word as well.
Okay, so what is Eric, the man, passionate about?
So I think, and I used to say this all the time, I hope to say I'm a good husband. My wife might disagree, but I want my tombstone to read, they couldn't have asked for a better father. And people kind of look at me, and people might disagree with what I've just stated. But for me, I held the role of being a parent extremely important. That I wanted my children to never think, I wish my dad was ... That I wanted my children to know that they had a full-time father. And I think because of the statistics that we're surrounded, especially for black men that are absent in the homes, and being an educator, kind of dealing with students that came to school, and I served as a role model or parental figure to them, I wanted to ensure that my kids had the best that they could when it comes down to a father. So that's kind of when you say, what are the things that I'm real important, and that falls right up there for me. But I think the other person or the other things about me that I would like to hope that I'm remembered for when it's all said and done is that I'm a giver. I enjoy the art of giving. Now, I've pondered all the time because I also like to receive, but I enjoy giving of myself. That if you see me, it's hard, that if it's something going on and it's work that needs to be done, typically I'm never the one sitting. And so even in a traditional church structure, I've kind of battled because I like being in the kitchen when it's a formal dinner. I'm the one that likes serving. So that's kind of who I am. And I did a lot of research, and, sometimes when you get degrees and you get status, you kind of think that you're supposed to be something bigger than what I think a person should be. But when you really peel back and you think about the life of Jesus, he was a servant. And I think understanding servant leadership and having a deep rooted connection to servant leadership is kind of who I am. I enjoy serving people, whether it's on my job, working with elementary kids, whether it's in the church, or even now with this catering business that I have. It all connects that I enjoy serving.
What's the name of your business?
So I have a catering company called Mother to Son. And the name is derived from me standing up as a little kid watching my mother cook Southern meals. And during that time, we really talked. So it wasn't just I watched, but she raised me to be this man that I am. And I think it connects back to your question, that she instilled into me a lot of life lessons. Didn't realize it at the time, but it was the lessons that I think I still hear today when I am cooking. So it's this interesting connection that she left me a lot of recipes. And again, I never thought that I would have ended up starting a catering company, but it was part of the plan that God had for my life. So as a little boy, I'm thinking I'm gonna be an educator. I'm gonna end up, and again, each step, it seems like God has just been right there with me to orchestrate it all.
All right. I'm a mama's boy, right?
That's another thing we have in common.
So my mom, she's 82, right? She mean the world to me. One word to describe your mom.
That's powerful. And the word I think I would use is powerful. She pastored a church here for many years in Salem, Virginia. But as a kid, she evangelized. We traveled all across the United States. And so it was a time where I witnessed how some people received a black woman in leadership, and it was difficult. And so to see her kind of go through and at a pastor of a church, she had our church paid for. She was a very business-minded individual. And so a lot of her skills in leadership, even though she never attended college, that's where I gained, I think, most of my information, because she was a true leader. I look back on my life and I laugh when she would attend conventions for church. I had to sit in meetings with her, and other dignitaries would say, a kid shouldn't be in this particular meeting. And she would look at them and say, if I'm in this meeting, my son is in this meeting. So at 8, 9 years old, I sat in these boring meetings, never thinking about she was training me because she could see where I was headed at a time that I couldn't. So she was a powerful individual. I mean, just her whole life was a true inspiration to others. She battled a lot, but I was blessed that she lived in my home for the last 14 years of her life. So we had a lot of moments that no one would ever know, but she was instilling into me kind of the things that I need to make it today. So I love that I still get to play those tapes in my head and those moments of encouragement, that even though she's not here, that power that she left, it still exists. She's still, and people still walk up to me telling me how much they miss her presence in their lives. So I'm truly thankful that I was blessed to have such a powerful mother, and I'm proud to say I'm another mama's boy.
Well, the next question is, for me, what colleges did you go to?
So my first college where I really had a lot of fun, I wasn't living holy, and that was Virginia Tech. So I went to Virginia Tech in the early 90s, and it was a time for me that really developed me into a man. I can say I went as a boy and I pledged to fraternity. And
Which fraternity?
I'm in Omega Psi Phi.
Who?
That would be me.
My god brother, he pledged. He went to Virginia State.
So it was life changing for me. It really opened my eyes. Again, it was a matter. I end up becoming a bossless, which is the president. And so it was still leadership that was preparing me for my future, and I didn't realize it at the time. But Tech, I partied a lot, and I was just glad to graduate. So I graduated with a psychology degree. I had no idea what I was going to do with it, and I really didn't care. I just graduated from college. And so my first job, I was a mental health counselor for young people, and I thought, can't make a living doing this. It wasn't a lot of money. So then I went into retail management. A lot of people don't know that, but I managed grocery stores. They sent me to North Carolina, and I lived there for a couple years. Then I said, I don't want to be a grocery store. I want to come back home because I was a mama's boy. So I came back to Roanoke, and when I came back, I ended up managing jewelry stores. I did that for 5 years, and that was what I thought my future was going to be. I was happy as you wanted to find a person, managing jewelry stores. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the work, but God had a plan. So what I didn't realize is I ended up accepting a job managing 3 different malls. And I thought, this is it. 3 different malls, and I was traveling to Richmond. It was a mall in Richmond and one in Lynchburg, and then one here in Roanoke Valley View. And I really enjoyed the job. Well, the company closed in 6 months. Mm-hmm. So that left me without employment. And so my wife at the time was a teacher, and she said, you need to teach. I said, nope, they don't make enough money. You need to teach. No, I will not do it. You need to teach. God knew I needed to teach. And so it took me about 6 months before I ended up surrendering, and that's the word I'll use. I surrendered, and I became a school teacher.
That wraps up today's True Shot segment. Alignment doesn't come from chasing purpose or forcing passion. It comes from walking your truth. When you live honestly, when your actions match your values, and when you stop shrinking or performing for acceptance, clarity begins to follow. Purpose becomes clearer, passion becomes more intentional, and who you are becoming starts to reflect who you were created to be. Walking in your truth requires courage, it requires reflection, and sometimes it requires unlearning what no longer serves you. But the reward is alignment mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. If this True Shot spoke to you, take time this week to check in with yourself. Ask where you may be out of alignment and what truth you have been avoiding. Growth begins with awareness. As always, your destiny is by choice, not by chance. Until next time, keep walking in your truth. Peace.